So basically what happened earlier this year, I hit this wall of, I felt like all of my problems were just like surfacing all of a sudden. And these were things that I had been struggling through and trying to shove to the side. Depression, an eating disorder, apparently anxiety, but I just didn't know that's what it was. I thought I just randomly had a panic attack. I was shoving that aside, like to the corner for like a very long time. And it kind of came back up in these different ways, sometimes stronger, sometimes quieter. When I got really involved in church and really involved in like Christian communities and stuff is when I started to get the feedback that like, you just need more Jesus, and like, that's not helpful. Well, we have Jesus so we don't struggle, but you don't, apparently, so you need more of him.
It's patronizing. It's very assumptive. Like, it's under the assumption that you, whatever they think about your relationship with God or with Jesus, and that's that's a personal thing.
Oh yeah, don't let anyone tell you that they can offer you something in there that you don't already have because they think you're doing something that they disagree with. I'm in this place where it's like the veil's coming off, and I'm like, oh, that's actually really arrogant and all about you, not about loving people like you're saying it is. Mm-hmm. It's just not. Like, what is your actual motive? What are you trying to make people think about you? That's a side tangent. Anyway, back to depression.
Back to depression.
And all the hair that's falling off of me.
Well, no. When people say, oh, well, you just need more of this, that doesn't require anything of them. And I think it's an uncomfortable position to be put in when someone that you care about is telling you that they struggle with something as serious as depression or an eating disorder or anxiety. And I think it is taking the easy way out to say, well, that sounds bad. That sounds like your problem. You just need to fix it with God. And that requires nothing of them. That doesn't require them sitting in it with you, asking you, okay, like, how can I help you? What do you need? Do you need support? Is there anything I can do? I've been there too. It requires no vulnerability and no true connection and friendship. It's just an easy way to get out of an uncomfortable situation and to add shame to the mix, which I think is just such a cowardly thing to do. I just think it's wrong. And it takes a little bit of just a little bit of Googling. Just Google. It's a science thing. I'm making no sense because I get so upset. Mental illness is a real thing. It's causing harm to people like us, and probably to, maybe there are some of you out there who are going through the same stuff. It's causing harm to not treat it as a real thing that actually affects our everyday life. You are doing the difficult work of dealing with it and not shoving it to the side and saying, well, you know, that's just a problem that, you know, I can't finish my thought.
You're doing really good.
All that to say, I'm proud of you for dealing with it, and I'm proud of anyone out there who's also dealing with it, because it's a hard road to go down.
So much braver to do that than to wear the mask that I wore for like 6 years.
And there is nothing more healing than talking to someone and saying, I'm going through this, and having them say, I got you, I know how that feels. In fact, this is what I struggle with. And then to feel like you're in this together. We can connect now in probably the deepest way that we ever have. When you allow yourself to feel all of it, the good and the bad, and to acknowledge it all, it does sometimes feel like a bit of whiplash, because there's a lot of good in the world, but there's a lot of bad in the world.
This year was a giant whiplash year for me.
Yeah. But if you numb yourself out to only try and experience good things and only acknowledge good things, then I think you're missing out on the fullness of life.
Oh, yeah.
You're not experiencing true goodness and joy, I think, if you're ignoring the difficult stuff too.
So I'm a 7, and 7s like to avoid pain and avoid the hard stuff and pretty much just jump from adventure to adventure to adventure. And I was doing that for a long time, pretty much last year by moving a lot. I moved 8 times last year. Just kept trying to avoid what actually was going on in my heart by throwing myself into next exciting thing. And I hit the breaking point at the end of last year. I hit this place where it was like, okay, I am not okay. And it was the first time I really like said that out loud. And I was in Boston and I was coming back to Nashville. And so I texted Alex, and we hadn't really talked that much throughout the year. So it was kind of like an out of the blue-ish type thing. And I just asked her if she was going to be in Nashville. And then she called me and I picked up the phone and I just like word vomited everything. And I don't remember exactly what I said. Do you remember what I said?
So over the last 4 years, I've had an eating disorder and also depression and also all these things. And I was like panic attack.
Like,
okay. okay, come stay here, stay as long as you need. And then I got off the phone and I just broke down crying because
you did?
yes,
I didn't know that.
I felt for you, and you were a mess, and you were, for the first time, you were saying things that I knew. I knew these things, but I knew that you hadn't acknowledged them yet. Finally, you were, and it just was like, okay, we can work on this now. There was an interesting flip after that phone call. Our relationship hasn't been the same since in such a good way.
Oh yeah.
And your life has gone through a lot of changes, but I think they're all positive.
I just was in this place towards the end of last year where I was around people that were basically saying mental health and therapy and stuff wasn't like a thing. It was more of like a mind game. It put me in this place of shame on top of it. When I finally called my sister and told her that and flew back to Nashville, we talked for I think 7 hours. It was kind of just this day that was really painful and really hard and really gruesome. If that's the right word. It was just a day that I had...
Grueling.
Grueling, yes.
It wasn't gruesome.
Okay, it was grueling. There was no blood.
Violent.
There was no gruesomeness. It was a day I had been avoiding for a very long time, but a day that was really just the start of real life for me. Mm-hmm. Like a wake-up call that was okay, this is actually a real thing. And talking about it with Alex was really helpful because that I can remember, that was the first approach that... Her approach to it was the first time it was acknowledging mental illness as not something to be ashamed of, but as an actual chemically imbalanced thing in your head that's normal, that a lot of people have, that once you realize there's no shame in it and it's normal and it's okay, that's when you can start to look at it and start taking the steps forward to help yourself deal with it.
It's normalizing of your experience because the truth is you have been through multiple traumatic events. Yeah. And of course that is going to affect your brain in the way that you live your life. Yeah, for people to minimize that is incredibly unhelpful and just create shame. A lot of the time it might be a reaction to their own stuff, of I've been ignoring this for so long and I'm trying so hard to act like I've got it figured out, and so me telling you that you just need to figure it out like me maybe makes them feel better. It could be anything. But I think once we are honest with our struggles and with the fact that things in our life actually do affect us, I think we make more room for other honest conversations to take place and for other friendships to deepen.
Tune in next week for part 3 of The Alex and Jackie Show. If you want to buy my book, Be Free, there's a link to that in the description box below. Or if you want to sign up and support me on Patreon, where you can get more involved in what I'm doing, support me as an independent writer, speaker, vlogger, yada, yada, yada. The link down below for that as well. Basically, just look below for all the links. I love you guys. Have a good one, and bye. Not bye.